I'm still not Corey, and unfortunately I'm also still a Harry Potter fan. J.K. Rowling was doxxed, so why don't we check out the Daily Mail to see an unbiased report of what happened. Before we get into the video, please check out my merch. The link is in the description. We've got stupid baby t-shirts and unicorn hats. If you want to be like a kind of subtle pride thing going on there, you can do that. You can do that with those. Go and check it out. Okay, cool. Also, leave a comment letting me know which Hogwarts house you'd be in if it was real, and also if J.K. Rowling wasn't a terf. Okay, let's start the video. So the title of the article is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Traffic Jam. J.K. Rowling causes 4 days of travel chaos after installing temporary traffic lights so she can have her Leylandi bush trimmed. Oh wait, hold on. This is the absolute wrong article. Whoopsie daisy. This might come up later. Let's get to the right article. Here we go. J.K. Rowling is renovating her $2 million Edinburgh mansion with new kitchen, scullery and pantry, and will erect a 4-foot high gates and 162-acre Perthshire estate. Wait, hold on. This is the wrong Daily Mail article. Wait, hold on. This is a Wikipedia article. This isn't even a Daily Mail one. What? Oh, it's about one of J.K. Rowling's homes. How do I find the actual Daily Mail article that I'm supposed to be looking at today? Ah, here we go. J.K. Rowling blasts 3 trans activists for trying to intimidate her with Twitter picture outside her home showing her address, as author reveals she's received so many death threats for her views on gender that she could paper the house with them. Interesting. Those nasty, evil trans activists posting where J.K. Rowling lives. No one would ever post where J.K. Rowling lives. Not the Daily Mail, not Wikipedia, not anyone. These trans activists, oh boy, do they need to be stopped. Seriously though, let's just get into the article. Here are the highlights. 3 activists posed outside J.K. Rowling's house holding pro-trans signs. The author has now hit out the activists for sharing her address on social media. It is the latest chapter in a row which has seen Rowling accused of transphobia. It's because she did the transphobia. So yeah, surprising no one, this Daily Mail article is heavily biased towards J.K. Rowling, but that's okay. Why don't we look at the pro-trans signs these people were holding outside J.K. Rowling's house? Because I've got the picture right here. I done got the tweet. Don't worry, it's got J.K. Rowling's very precious address blurred out, so no one will be able to find her home, unless of course they looked at the Daily Mail articles posting pictures of the outside of her home, or, you know, went to Edinburgh and went on a tour of Edinburgh, where people on Edinburgh tours will show you where J.K. Rowling's home is, or perhaps went to Wikipedia and found another one of her goddamn homes on there. Anyway, let's look at the tweet. The signs say, trans liberation now, don't be a sissy, and trans rights are human rights. I would say, all very, very vanilla. In terms of holding signs outside of J.K. Rowling's house, those are the most milquetoast pro-trans signs I have ever seen. They're so not radical at all. I just love the framing of like these trans activists, and they are trans activists, absolutely, but like you'd expect the signs to maybe be a little bit more aggressive rather than just let trans people be free, and maybe trans people should be treated like people. Maybe. And the tweet just says, popped over to J.K. Rowling's house in Edinburgh. Hashtag trans rights are human rights. Hashtag don't be a sissy. Hashtag trans liberation now. How did they find J.K. Rowling's house? I wonder. It's almost as though J.K. Rowling's home address is fairly public information and easy for literally anybody to find if they put 5 minutes of effort into it. But let's continue reading the article. J.K. Rowling has blasted 3 trans activists for trying to intimidate her after they protested outside her house before posting a picture of her address on social media. Doesn't seem like it's intimidation. They didn't really do anything except for take a picture with trans signs outside of a notable transphobe's house. It's not intimidation. It's not, ooh, we're gonna get you. It's just, hey, this person's a transphobe and we think trans people are good. It's very simple. The author, 56, has faced accusations of transphobia after she mocked an online article in June 2020 which used the words people who menstruate instead of women. Well, yeah, there's a little bit more than that. There's a tiny touch more than that. She did the I stand with Maya. She did that. A little bit transphobic. She then posted a whole bloody essay on why it's okay for her to be transphobic because of trauma. That's maybe why people were accusing her of transphobia. Liking terf tweets. That's probably again why people were accusing her of transphobia. Framing it as accused of transphobia as opposed to did these specific things that people say were transphobic. Trying to reduce it down to just like commenting on word choice in an article is a bit ridiculous. But they do bring up the essay though. She later defended herself against the claims in a passionate essay but has continued to face criticism. Yeah, because she didn't stop at the bloody essay though, did she? She kept on being a transphobe. I'm not a transphobe. I've written this non-transphobe essay, so you know that I'm not a transphobe. But I will continue to be a transphobe. And you can't keep on accusing me or being mad at me because I have written my non-transphobe essay. That's not how it works, Daily Mail. It's not how it works. You can't just write an essay explaining why you're transphobic and have people shut up about it after that. Rowling is a notable absence from the upcoming Harry Potter 20th anniversary reunion in light of her views. Yeah, probably because it's a bit awkward to have such a blatant transphobe. Probably not very good. I wouldn't want to be sitting chatting all fun and happy. If I was Emma Watson, I wouldn't be making these videos. But if I was Emma Watson, I probably wouldn't want to be chit-chatting with J.K. Rowling about, oh, how fun was Harry Potter? Especially because Emma Watson is all big on human rights and all that. I feel like trans people, kind of come under that umbrella of human rights there. Groundbreaking, I know. In the latest chapter of the saga, 3 activists posed outside Rowling's Edinburgh home whilst holding pro-trans signs last Friday. Very true, very good. The author's address was clearly visible in the background of a photo of the activist that was shared widely on Twitter. Again, her address is easy to find. You've posted pictures of the outside of her house. It's not hard. It's on tourist websites. It's like, it's a tourist attraction. She's very, very easy to find. I honestly believe that you could go to Edinburgh, just be dropped anywhere in Edinburgh, and make your way to J.K. Rowling's house with no knowledge of the city whatsoever. I'm sure it'd be easy. I'm sure it would not take you very long at all. Hitting out at the trio, Rowling accused them of doxing her and trying to intimidate her for speaking up for women's sex-based rights. Little dog whistle there. When someone says, speaking up for women's sex-based rights, what they mean is shitting all over trans women. Just popping a squat and all over them. The article then says the names of the 3 activists, which I'm going to omit from this video just because I don't want to send any more flack their way, because I assume some transphobes and whatnot will probably come to this video. And it kind of brings me on to my next point of J.K. Rowling saying, I have been intimidated and doxed, and then like fully just naming and like tagging the people. You have so many followers. You have so many followers, and just naming these people, you know they're gonna get harassment. You know that they are. The photo was taken down, all of this stuff, but claiming to be doxed whilst everyone knows your address and you're also sending hate to a bunch of other people, like, that is messed up. That is so unbelievable. That's, oh, I am the victim here, whilst fully victimizing someone else. Like, that is exactly what TERFs do. It is like full on, like, the TERF MO to claim that you're a victim when you're actually just harassing someone else. It's what they do to trans people. It's what they're doing to these trans activists. It's unbelievable. She also revealed that she's received so many death threats over the trans row that she could paper the house with them. Yeah, don't send J.K. Rowling death threats. Don't send her threats at all. Don't be mean about people. I get death threats all the time. Honestly, I don't think it's that big a deal to me. I find it quite funny, but it is not a fun thing to happen, generally, right? Most people would not have that view of it. Don't send death threats to people. Don't threaten people online, even if you disagree with them. It is just so bad. It's a really awful thing to do. For one thing, it is bad to experience that. No one deserves to be on the receiving end of death threats or threats of harm or violence. That is just not okay. It doesn't matter who it is. But on top of that, if you want to actually help trans people in general, or help this kind of movement, making it look real bad by sending death threats to TERFs is not helping. It is hard enough in the UK right now to get people to see this whole trans debate for what it actually is. Bigots attacking, harassing, and oppressing trans people. That is what's going on. But when you have people sending death threats to the bigots, it gives them grounds to say, look how dangerous and mean these trans people are to me. They're bad too. It's equal footing. I'm not just harassing them. You're just giving them ammunition. You're helping TERFs if you send death threats to them. I promise you that. You're making it so that the conversation isn't about TERFs harassing trans people or how TERF ideology is actually just bigotry dressed up in academia. You're turning it into, we should feel real sorry for the TERFs. And that's exactly what happened. The article says, Downing Street has criticised the targeting of J.K. Rowling by trans activists. The Prime Minister's official spokesman said, I don't think any individual should be targeted this way. Absolutely true, but it shouldn't be the topic of conversation. Ultimately, I don't think what these trans activists did was all that bad. Posing outside of J.K. Rowling's house with like signs saying trans liberation now, that is fine. I don't think that's crossing a line, right? I don't really think they were doxing her. If they were actually doxing her, obviously crossing a line. Doxing is crossing a line. Threats are crossing a line. But standing outside a more or less public place that everyone knows and taking a picture, that is fine. That is genuinely not that big a deal. But the whole death threats thing that J.K. Rowling has got going for her, all this harassment that she's been given, all of that makes this very innocuous situation very, very easy to criticize. Because it's no longer just some activists taking a picture. It's now part of this whole mess of harassment that's been sent to this poor gender-critical woman. It is unbelievable how obvious this is, and yet how difficult it is for people to understand. Even if you don't think that J.K. Rowling doesn't deserve to be sent threats, which, by the way, we should have a conversation about. No one deserves to be sent threats. But even if you don't think that, right, you're not helping anyone. Downing Street goes on to say, we believe that everyone has the right to be treated with dignity and respect and that people are able to share their views as long as it's done in that fashion. And this is the thing, TERFs can share their views on trans people and make it seem as though they're doing it with dignity and respect, but ultimately they are disrespecting the very core identity of these people. But the conversation can't get to that point yet. We literally cannot have that conversation. No one is willing to hear it because what it seems like to a lot of people in the public is TERFs versus trans activists. Not as in TERFs oppressing trans people, but like these groups butting heads. Threats are only helping them. Honestly, hearing that come out of my mouth, it sounds insane. Obviously, threats are bad to be on the receiving end of, but sending threats to these individuals really only strengthens the group, if that makes sense. Remember what I said about J.K. Rowling whining about being doxxed, but then tagging the people in her tweet? Yeah, later, one of those people posted a statement on social media saying that they'd removed the photo after being inundated with abuse. So, who is really the victim in this situation? The billionaire who had nothing affect her whatsoever, or the person who took the picture and was inundated with abuse because J.K. Rowling took it upon herself to actually tag those people in her own tweet? I think it's very clear who the victim is. The article then goes on to talk about J.K. Rowling's tweets, which I'll read out for you here. They say, last Friday my family's address was posted on Twitter by 3 activist actors who took pictures of themselves in front of our house, carefully positioning themselves to ensure that our address was visible. Did they do that also? I love that she mentions family. Again, this whole thing is just to try and get people to feel sympathy for her while she's like very, very clearly opening up all of these people for abuse and harassment. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who reported the image to Twitter support. Your kindness and decency made all the difference to my family and me. I'd also like to thank Police Scotland for their support and assistance in this matter. Again, she's not doing this to anyone that talks about where she lives. Just the trans activists. The Daily Mail themselves, the people that wrote this article, have posted multiple pictures of J.K. Rowling's house and written multiple articles about her houses. It is not private information. Over the last few years, I've watched appalled as women like Alison Bailey, Rachel Sanchez, Marion Miller, Rosie Duffield, Joanna Cherry, Julie Bindel, Rosa Friedman, Kathleen Stock, and many, many others, including women who have no public profile but who've contacted me to relate their experiences, have been subject to campaigns of intimidation which range from being hounded on social media, targeting of their employers, all the way up to doxing and direct threats of violence, including rape. Absolutely condemn all of those threats. Absolutely do. But the way that J.K. Rowling's painting this as though it is only gender critical TERFs, it's only TERFs that get this kind of harassment and abuse, is not true at all. Pretty much all of these public people that she's spoken about have publicly spoken out against trans people, or have publicly said something transphobic, which then affects trans people quite negatively. Like, trans people get doxxed, trans people get harassed, and all of these TERFs contribute to that. But omitting that from this whole conversation is disingenuous. I will happily stand up and say TERFs get a lot of harassment, and I think that is bad, and I don't think people should be doing it. But I'm also going to say TERFs send a lot of harassment trans people's way, right? And in a lot of cases, the trans people are only retaliating to the TERFs, right? Because, like, ultimately, if TERFs left trans people alone, trans people wouldn't be harassing TERFs. If TERFs weren't saying, hey, trans people aren't valid, or trans people shouldn't be able to do this, or I want to take away trans people's rights, if TERFs weren't doing that, no one would have a problem with them. Right? No one would have a problem with them. But trans people just going about their own business, just having the same rights as everyone else, that makes TERFs foam at the f***ing mouth. There's a bit of a f***ing imbalance there. None of these women are protected the way I am. They and their families have been put into a state of fear and distress for no other reason than that they refuse to uncritically accept the socio-political concept of gender identity should replace that of sex. Not what trans people want. Not what trans activists want. That is honestly not the goddamn issue. And I'm pretty sure she knows it. So many other people have said it better than me. I'm not going to get into it here. It is so much more complex than that, and I just don't have the time today to get into it. But again, it's odd that J.K. Rowling would mention that these people don't have the same protection that she does, whilst also tagging the people that took the picture in her tweet. It's almost as though in J.K. Rowling's mind, it's perfectly okay to let people abuse and harass trans people and trans activists. But when it comes to TERFs, that's a no-go. I don't think this is a conversation about abuse and harassment. I don't think it is at all. I think it's a conversation about TERFs being able to get away with shit on trans people. That's what it seems to be. And this tweet is amazing. I have to assume that these 3 people, she didn't say these 3 people, she tagged them. I have to assume that these 3 thought doxing me would intimidate me out of speaking up for women's sex-based rights. Maybe you thought that tagging them would intimidate them out of standing up for trans people's rights. Right? Seems like you're doing exactly what you're accusing them of doing. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of evidence that they were doxing you or trying to intimidate you. It is so messed up that the Daily Mail is fully just taking her word for it. And I know that is what the Daily Mailers want to do. But my point is more, it is messed up that people in general are taking your word for it. It is so exceedingly obvious that, like, she is the person that is sending abuse other people's way in this context. She then goes on to say, they should have reflected on the fact that I've now received so many death threats I could paper the house with them, and I haven't stopped speaking out. Perhaps, and I'm just throwing this out there, the best way to prove your movement isn't a threat to women is to stop stalking, harassing, and threatening us. And hey, J.K. Rowling, maybe take your own goddamn advice. Maybe the best way to prove that you don't hate trans people is to not target trans people and trans activists, huh? Maybe that'd be a good way of going about it. I'm perfectly happy to say that people shouldn't harass TERFs under any circumstances, but are you happy to say that people shouldn't harass trans people? Are you happy to say that people shouldn't harass trans activists? Are you gonna say that? Because you don't seem to have said it. In fact, you seem to have done the exact thing that you're calling these people out for. This isn't the end of the article, but the rest of it is just a kind of biased account of J.K. Rowling's transphobia over the past couple years, and honestly, I think we all know enough about that, so I'm not going to go through it. There's no point. It is old news. But the article is linked in the description if you want to check that out, along with all the other ones that I spoke about today. That is it from me. I guess all there's left to say is that J.K. Rowling is transphobic. Goodbye. What do you think of the video? Please leave a comment down below letting me know. Also, let me know your Hogwarts house if you want, or whatever. I don't know. Just leave a comment. Also, like the video and subscribe. Also, check out my merch. Link is in the description. I've also got my other accounts there. You know, my main channel, my podcast. You know the drill by this point. Here are my patrons. You can be one of them. Please be one of them. Link is in the description for that also. And I guess all that's left to say is a very special thank you to Renegade and Sarah. And that is all from me today. Goodbye.